hey everyone, welcome again. We've got another sermon extra. This one is a bit of an unusual one. It's not actually addressing something that came up during the preaching. So I, just on the last Sunday, preached through John 7. Liam's going to be doing John 8 next week. But I noticed that there's a little section in between our two sermons that's in the Bible, but we're not preaching on it. What's the deal? I mean, you talk about we want to preach through the whole Bible. Is this bit too hard for you? What's the story? This is a famous passage, right? This is that verse, let he who is without sin throw the first stone. Yeah. That's in there. What are you doing? Why aren't we preaching it?
Yeah, well, good question, Rob, and I think you already know the answer, but hey, thanks for asking.
Wow, I like to draw out the drama.
It's good. No, it's a wonderful little passage. It's this story of the adulterous woman who the Jews are all there ready to stone her, and Jesus does this quirky thing. He draws in the ground. He makes that statement: "He who is without sin cast the first stone," which is beautiful, isn't it? We want to run with it. But you might have noticed that in your Bible, this bit is in italics or in brackets.
I think in mine it's actually down as a footnote, so it's not even in the main
text. But if you've got a King James version, it's just part of the same text. So why aren't we preaching on it, and why is there the brackets or italics in some versions? So the way the Bible is translated, the way our modern English Bibles are translated, they're translated directly from the original languages, from the oldest documents we have. So in the New Testament, the language is Greek, and we've got thousands of parts of the New Testament. It's incredible the accuracy we have that go back to really close to when it was written, which is super exciting and compared to other ancient documents, historically reliable. But just because of the nature of archaeology, because we're constantly digging up and finding new things, we are constantly finding older versions of the same document. And the two passages that I guess you say are disputed, that is this part of the original or not? This part of John, these few verses in John, the end of 7, the start of chapter 8, and the very end of Mark's Gospel. If you flick over there, you'll see the same thing. It'll be in italics or in brackets. And what we found was around the era when the King James Version of the Bible was translated from the original languages, it was actually translated from a Latin version as well. So around that era, the oldest and most reliable documents that showed the Bible of the New Testament, they had actually included this part. So they just carried on translating. It was there.
Right. So that's why in the King James it's just part of the text.
Absolutely, it's just part of the text. Now, since then, they have discovered lots of other fragments and complete books of the New Testament that were older than the text the King James Version was translated from. So they predate it. So they're closer to the original document, which means, and they have their whole fields of study that devote themselves to working out the historicity of these documents, which means they are close to the original. They are more likely to exactly reflect the original documents. And those older documents, the oldest and most reliable manuscripts we have, don't include this part of John or the end of Mark. And in fact, there's a couple of manuscripts out there where this story is there, but it's not in John. It's actually in Luke in one of them and somewhere else in another, which shows that there was a bit of contention about, hang on, there's not consensus on it from these documents. So you look at all that, you put it together, and really the bulk of scholars who look at this stuff say that this part of John is almost certainly not part of the original document. And including it would be to be preaching on something which almost certainly wasn't part of God's inspired word to John, which is why we're just not going to preach on it. Now, it may have happened. It actually sounds very Jesus-like, which I think is probably why it got included.
Yeah.
Because it might have been another story from a different source that was true, someone who was there at the time and recorded it. And it's just such a beautiful story, and it's so Jesus-like that, so it may well have happened, but we just don't know, and it's almost certainly not part of John. But I guess I want to finish on, there's only 2 of these. They don't change the Bible. Like, we don't have a whole lot of
theology
variation
built around it. Yeah.
No, and across, as we find older documents, they almost exactly match up to our new one, and the changes are almost always like grammatical or equivalent of a comma somewhere. We have great confidence in the text we have in front of us, and these two bits, this bit in John, the end of Mark, are the only ones really that are disputed. So I think we can have great confidence.
Yeah. Now, so that's really helpful. So that's why we're not preaching on that particular few verses. As always with Sermon Extra, we'll add a little bit of extra info if you want to chase it up and learn a little bit more. So feel free to go through that. And then there will be Q&A next week as we do John 8. That might be a good time to ask any other questions that you might have.
Absolutely.
Or just contact us directly.
See you next time.
See you later.